Hello and welcome to the first ever episode 4 of the Cosmic Force. I am one of your hosts, Tyler Reganti. Thank you all for joining us tonight on the UTini Podcast Network. We're in a little bit of new territory here because this is new content for us. We've never practiced this, so this is going to be a fun show. Joining me tonight is our regular group of hosts, and I'm going to toss it over first to Emma, who is sporting an awesome UTini merchandise right there. Emma, how you doing?
I am doing wonderful. Yes, I've got my Cosmic Force shirt on for our audio listeners. It's a red shirt with our logo on it, and I love it. And you, the public, will soon be able to get one of your own, so stay tuned for that.
Yes. Jose is working on cleaning up the storefront right now, so we can get some new articles of some merchandise out there, and that will be one of the new merch. So keep an eye out for that. Caleb, how are you doing tonight? My fellow fully vaccinated host.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got shot yesterday, so if I start nodding off and drooling on the mic halfway through the episode, you'll know why. It's not because of my massive cocaine problem.
Okay.
Yeah, Caleb and I were definitely a little concerned because I got my second vaccine earlier today. Caleb had mentioned that he had gotten it recently as well. So we were like, yeah, we don't necessarily know how this is going to work for the show tonight. So far so good. And hopefully we'll be able to get through the show without any severe effects of anything
Issues.
going on. Last but not least, our producer, Jacob. How's it going tonight?
I'm a little offended. I am also fully vaccinated as of last Friday, so thanks for not mentioning that.
Well, you're
Man,
fully
geez.
vaccinated and fully inoculated and over all the bad stuff.
I'm over the bad stuff. I'm not fully immune yet, but yeah.
And I'm getting mine on Friday, so I'll join the cool kids.
I was going to say, I know you had the first one, Emma. All right, good. So
Yes.
this is our PSA here. That we are all getting the vaccination and doing our part. So yeah, there's our unscripted PSA for the night. So anyways,
Yes, get vaccinated.
Let's get back to the actual topic. We are a Star Wars comics podcast that broadcasts live right here on youtube.com/Utini every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. If you can't join us live, that's okay. Our videos are available on youtube.com at all times. And breaking news here, we are actually a podcast now. We are no longer just a video on YouTube. We are starting to get into all of the podcast platforms. I know that I can verify that we are definitely on Spotify, and I believe, Jacob, you said there were some people that were in the Discord that said that they found us on Apple Podcasts as well, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So if you start, so you can start looking for us in all of your podcast networks, and when you do, give us a like, make it easier for everybody else to be able to find us. We are part of the Utini Podcast Network. What is that, you might ask? Well, Utini is a community of positive fans that share our love for the greater Star Wars universe. Novels, comics, audio dramas, and everything in between. If you love Star Wars and you've been looking for a community of people to share that love in a positive way, well, that's who we are. We have a Discord of almost 1,000 members now. That link will be in the show notes and it will be in the chat. So find your way over there. Join into the Introduce Yourself channel and introduce yourself. Tell them that you came to the Discord via the Cosmic Force podcast, and you'll be greeted by a bunch of fellow comic lovers and Star Wars lovers alike. If you like what you see and you want to say thanks, you can also head over to our Patreon channel at patreon.com/Utini, where for as little as $5 a month, you can gain exclusive access to the entire Utini podcast network of shows, as well as exclusive merch and community involvement activities. I know that Timothy is busy planning some of those activities coming up. So join our Patreon and gain access to all of that. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into the show tonight. We will start with our weekly pull list. And Jacob, we've got a big one this week. I don't know if any of you guys, we were talking about this before we got started, but what came out this week?
Yeah, a big one's a bit of an understatement. We got Darth Vader 2020 issue number 11, which is Into the Fire Part 6 Exegol. It's written by Greg Pak, pencils by Raphael Yanko, cover by Aaron Cooter, colorist Niraj Menon, and letterer Joe Caramanga. And I gotta say, this is probably easily the most discussed comic book we've ever had in Discord that isn't named High Republic.
Oh, for sure.
The conversation 100%. Was going wild today, and it is... again, we don't like to spoil, but it is wild. If you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend it. And one thing we are doing new this week, all the weekly poll lists, all the things I talk about here, you can find the links to those in the description of the YouTube description. So if you're watching live and you want to buy this in Comixology, you can go ahead and do that right now. Although we'd appreciate if you stick around in the meantime.
This was a big issue. There were a lot of, we're not going to get into spoilers, but there are a lot of Star Wars expanded universe lore going on right now in this issue.
A lot of implications for a lot of things. If you haven't read it yet and you're trying to keep up with the series, please do yourself a favor and read it so that you don't get spoiled. You don't want to be spoiled for this. It was probably my favorite issue of any comic that's come out this year so far, gotta say.
Be Nasty in the chat says this comic broke my mind today, and I would agree. And
totally.
The only thing, my only gripe about this is, and I said this, I think I said this in the Slack, knowing that War of the Bounty Hunter is coming up, this felt like a season finale because they're going to be. I think they're going to be stopping with this storyline for a little bit.
I believe
right?
so. Yep.
Yeah, at least
So
it's gonna be
you're right.
another 4 or 5 months at least until we see any of this may be coming back, and it's like. No, keep going. Like I want to.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I want to read War of the Bounty Hunters, but like, no, I want this now.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yes, the very, very great. This is it's great, and this is exactly why I personally love comics, because I don't think you could give this justice. Maybe in a novel, but to see some of the imagery that goes along with it, it's perfect. It's awesome.
Yeah. And one
Jacob,
more,
is that the only thing that we've got in the weekly pull list?
Well, no. So there's also Marvel's releasing a collection of all the Empire Strikes Back variant covers, but that's not exactly what we're here for. It's May the 4th is next week, so there's a big sale going on Comixology right now. So we have there's 3 it's all Star Wars basically stuff is on sale as far as trade paperbacks go. But there are 3 separate collections. So there's the May the 4th sale, which is basically all Marvel canon stuff for the most part. So you can go ahead and see and get any trade paperback or anything that you might want to catch up on. There's also one for Legends for our Legends fans. I don't know if Jared's here, but you can get the Legends sale is wild. You can get an omnibus for $1. So yeah, if you want to catch up on Legends, now is the time to get going with that if you're not already on the Marvel Unlimited train. And then the last one is actually I thought was pretty interesting. Was as you can see, they're all green now. For me, Star Wars Adventures, all of those trade paperbacks are on sale as well.
I did that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're for me, this is great. I'm a Marvel Unlimited reader, so I can't read these on Marvel Unlimited. Well, for the low price of $68, you can buy everything. So,
yeah, I bought all the adventures as well because, I recently purchased Marvel Unlimited as much as I was touting Comixology because, Jared got me into Legends comics. So yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So Jared got me into Legends comics, and I'm like, okay, now I'm obsessed with reading these, so I guess I'll get a year of Marvel Unlimited, but I haven't read the Adventures yet, and that's the only canon comics piece that I'm missing. So I purchased all of them, pretty much 50% off. And it's an amazing deal. And I also saw something somewhere, and I don't know if this is accurate, so don't take my word for this, but I saw that you could potentially buy all of the Legends comics for something around $150 or something like that.
Yeah, I think
I also saw that post. Yes.
Yeah, I think Skooma Joe said that in Discord. But if you want to get in on that sale, again, those links are also in the YouTube description down below. So you can pull. There's a one for the canon, the Legends, and the Star Wars Adventures line. So yeah, go check that out. Pick up whatever might interest you. If you're looking for suggestions, you can ask in chat or just hop over to Discord. I'm sure someone will be able to help you there. Find something that
It looks like in the chat, Mike A took advantage of the Legends sale a bit. Be Nasty got the Dark Empire and Thrawn trilogy. So there's a lot of love going out there. I also wanted to make mention in the chat. Cad Ben asks a great question, and I'm going to actually toss this over to Caleb here. Cad asks, when we were talking about Vader 11, he asked, do you have to be caught up on the other Vader lines before reading this line? He says he's read 2015. But that's the only thing he's read.
Then you're going above and beyond. You don't need to know anything to get into 2020. It's kind of its own standalone sort of thing taking place there. Don't get me wrong. There's some great content in Dark Lord of Sith. There's some great content in 2015. So you do yourself a favor, but it's not. You don't have to read everything in publishing order. That's the word I'm looking for. See, I told you it's going to be a rough night.
Yes, so we want to make sure keep those questions coming. We want to make sure we know that there's a lot of comics rookies out there. So I wanted to make sure that I saw that question because Cad, I know that you're not the only person who's probably thinking that. So yes, don't get me wrong. Go back and read those other Vader lines. Those are great. It seems like you've already read the Charles Soule line, which is outstanding. But yeah, make sure you get in there. You read the new line. You jump into the Discord and you participate in the conversation because there's a lot of theories going on there in our Discord right now. It's awesome. So in addition to Darth Vader 11, I want to kind of get into what we're loving this week. And we're going to start with Art of the Week, and I'm going first. I was getting caught up. I knew that this issue was coming up. This is not a spoiler, but this is from Vader 2020 issue number 7. The art here is by Raphael Ineco. He's the penciler. And Nerej Menon, he's a colorist. And I was reading this and I thought it was a really interesting callback to episode 3. Because this is Vader going back to Mustafar and seeing his past transgressions. But I also thought, especially with that panel down there at the bottom, that it was a really interesting sort of connection to Vader's current state in the comic. I'm not going to go into any spoilers there, but as decrepit as that corpse is there in the foreground, Vader is also going through a little bit of a hard time in this book, and I thought it was, in addition to just an amazing look, there was a little bit of storytelling going on there, and I appreciated that. So that was my art of the week. Emma, what is your art of the week this week?
Yeah, so I don't have anything as dark and depressing as that corpse, but I do have a beautiful portrait of Naboo. It looks like the house from the Lake Country in Attack of the Clones, and this is from Star Wars Obsessions #2, another Legends comic. I think that's the second week in a row for me. Thanks a lot, Jared. This art is by Brian Ching, and it's just gorgeous with the way that the sun is sort of shining over the house, and I don't know, it was just gorgeous. Nothing too special about it other than it's pure beauty, and who knows, maybe there's a wedding going on there with some droids witnessing. Caleb, what's your art of the week?
We're continuing this trend of Darth Vader. This one comes from Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, issue 25, art by Giuseppe Camicoli. As I said, it's like essentially, for like a more appropriate term to avoid as much spoilers, Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, is going through like an astral projection, going through like the astral plane. So we see like the ghost of his force like moving through this sort of thing. So we kind of get like snippets of his life as we progress through this series, you know, as a kid, as a adolescent, as an adult. And if you notice there on the last panel, his arm is now in a different color. That's because it's now artificial. And when we keep going forward, like now his legs and all of his arms, it's interesting to see how being so crippled in the real life has still carried over to the astral plane. So some really great storytelling, some really great line work, and I just love what they do with the panel setup. So I love this sort of storytelling. Tyler, what have you been watching?
Wow.
Well, I will tell you what I'm reading in a second, but first I'm going to go to Jacob and let him sort of explain what his art of the week is.
All right, so my art of the week is from Star Wars 2015, number 41. This is art by Salvador Larroca, and this whole arc is about the destruction of Jeddah and our heroes kind of visiting what's left after Rogue One. And so this is the panel I picked. I don't know if what struck out to me was this panel specifically, but I think just the culmination of the art around this area. So like Luke basically walks up to the edge of where it got blasted by the Death Star, and there's just this cataclysmic storm and all these cool weather effects and thunder and lightning and fire and smoke. And I think just the culmination of all these pages is what really kind of sold this beauty and destruction to me. So I love it. I think it was really cool. So,
yeah.
Wow, y'all went dark this week.
Exactly. I'm surprised you didn't like in an earlier issue of that run there. They also show like, it from the the Jedha from space, and you see literally like it's a circle with giant like hole cut busted out of it, and that was like really striking to see. Just like this planet is done for.
Yeah.
So really great art in that whole run there. Speaking of really great art, we do have one submitted by our very own community member Aiden, aka Jedi Pig. This one, another great choice, Dark Lord of the Sith, Vader, number 20, kind of set up. He's been asked by his Dark Lord, the Emperor, where do you want to make your home base? And it's, bubbled out there, but he calmly declares that he wants Mustafar, the scene of his greatest failure, as his home base. So it's really great, just, powerful looking, and it's hard to say like emotion, but you can kind of feel like that tension from him, even though you don't see his face. That's why Darth Vader has some amazing moments in comics. So thank you, Aiden. Your submission was grade A, all approved. So if you're out there and you want to have your submission up for the decision, shoot us at Discord, hit us up at Twitter, and we will make sure to nominate you for Art of the Week.
Yeah, so one thing real quick with that, normally we've been giving away a free comic book code to the people that have won. So people have gotten codes for High Republic 1 through 4, or someone asked for a Bounty Hunters code we had the other week. I'm going to pull an audible. The other hosts don't even know I'm going to do this. So, we got that sale going on right now. Aiden, I don't think you're watching in chat right now, but I'll let you know. Pick a Omnibus in Legends, and I'll just buy it for you. It's $1
Whoa.
to $2.
Look at that.
Whoa, look at that.
You've upgraded from one comic to I don't know, at least 6 comics right now.
Wow.
And this sale's going through next Thursday. So I'm not going to guarantee anything, but if someone wins next week, then they might just find themselves in a similar situation. So,
ooh, y'all better send us your best art.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's get those submissions in. And see if
big money Jacob here putting a whole $1 into our community. Wow.
A singular dollar making it rain right now. Potentially 2, depending on what he picks. But
that's amazing. Yeah, good incentive. Get your art into us, people. We love to see it.
Yes, that's at Cosmic Force Show on Twitter. Or the Cosmic Force channel on Discord, or if you want to just message one of us privately on Discord, you can do that too. But yeah, let's get those submissions in there and make Jacob buy somebody else an omnibus next week. So, all right, now that we've gone through the art, we're going to talk about what we've been reading. And I kind of slacked off 2 weeks ago, and I kind of made up for it now that I was able to get out of the house. I was able to catch up on Darth Vader, so I'm caught up on Darth Vader. I'm caught up on both of the High Republic series. I'm caught up on Bounty Hunters. I've started to get caught up on Dr. Aphra. I'm through number 6, after number 6 on that. I've almost finished this Poe Dameron trade paperback number 1 as research for tonight's episode. But I've also been working through my backlog of novels. I'm about halfway through Phasma, and then this other book came out yesterday about this blue skin guy called Greater Good.
I never heard of it.
Yeah. So that's also come out. So I've been reading that. So I've been trying to be busy. I've divide my time equally. But yeah, it's been a busy week. Emma, what are you reading?
Yeah, so I've been really busy with finals. My semester's ending next week, so I've been really busy with that. Really happy about it, though. But I did read Darth Vader, the new Darth Vader, of course. I didn't want to miss that. And New Thrawn, like Tyler mentioned, I had the honor of reviewing that for Utini in a video. So I've already read it, but I guess I would include that since I didn't want to talk about it earlier. But yeah, it's a fantastic book. Seriously, I highly recommend picking it up. Zahn's writing is some of the best it's ever been. The more he writes Thrawn, the better it gets. Seriously, I couldn't recommend it enough. So go pick it up if you haven't. Read Eric's review on the site if you haven't. You can catch my video review on YouTube. And those reviews, they don't have, they have light spoilers, but nothing that really impacts the plot. So feel free to check those out if you're hesitant about reading the book, and and chat about it in Discord with us, because there's been a lot of great conversation going on. We use spoiler tags for anything that's super specific, and we love to chat about new releases in there, and it's a ton of fun.
Now, what about if it's been a while since you've read Chaos Rising and you want to get caught up on that? Do we have any resources for that?
We do. Our Nathan, who also hosts videos for us, he did a Chaos Rising recap, which is extremely helpful because, I mean, Thrawn novels always super complicated and complex in a good way.
Lots of apostrophes.
Lots of apostrophes, perhaps, and all of that good stuff. So yeah, absolutely check out that video before you read Greater Good. It's going to be a great help to you. It's much easier than reading through Wikipedia or anything like that. And Nathan did a bang-up job with that.
Yeah, and if you're like me, you'll try and Google try and look up something on Wikipedia, intentionally a more vague article to refresh yourself on something, and then still spoil something from Greater Good. So yeah, just don't be me.
Wikis and spoilers just go hand in hand.
Literally, like I looked and it had been edited at 5:30 the morning the book came out, and I was like,
Wow.
It's like you couldn't wait, but.
Yeah, but you can trust Utini about spoilers. Yeah, so we're better than Wikipedia in that way. We won't spoil you. We're very good about that. So you don't have to worry with us.
Yes, the Living Force gives, what is it? It's usually a month before they start talking of
about a month.
Do their roundtables, right? Yeah.
Yeah, a month for roundtables, and then in Discord it's 3 months for a book until you can start openly posting without spoiler tags. So.
Yes. Our Discord's great. We can't plug it enough. We have a very respectful, very active, and very respectful Discord. Who I think even when there's a spoiler posted, it's usually by accident because they don't know how to spoiler tag it, and they very quickly about taking it back down. Admins are in there making sure that there's nobody spoiling things. It's really great, and I really just a shout out to the UTN community.
Have we hit 1,000 members yet?
Last time I checked, we are 30 members away. So if you're not in our Discord yet, we would love to have you. We need to get into the quadruple digits. That'll be a great accomplishment.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Live update. We're at 972 members right now.
972.
All
Who knows?
right,
Maybe when we hit 1,000, Jacob will buy somebody else something new as well.
Okay, hold on there.
kind of like taking your coupon book out on your first date.
There you go. Caleb, what are you reading this week?
I've been bouncing around a lot of things. I've been, in preparation for this show, I've been reading some more Poe Dameron, getting kind of running through that series, a lot of 2015 Star Wars like Jacob. So run through the Jedha arc right there. And, for those non-Star Wars things, I've been catching up on, I read Cable 2020, a good amount of the issues there for the artist's work there. So, a lot of smattering, nothing super deep just yet, just getting things ready so we can talk intelligently this episode. Jacob, what have you been reading?
So, yeah, I mentioned I'd read Darth Vader 11. What I did not mention is prior to the other day, I had not read any of Darth Vader 2020, so I read all 11 issues in one sitting, so that was a lot of fun. Very good. Yeah, definitely would recommend. And I'm really excited we mentioned it, but I'm very interested to see how it's going to go from this crazy high to War of the Bounty Hunters, where he's going to be like hunting Dr. Aphra or Han Solo or something like that. I don't know how they're going to get there, but we'll see. And then also, I haven't read it yet, but like I said, I bought all of the Star Wars Adventures books. So I read like 30 Marvel books in the past week. I'll probably maybe start mixing in some IDW here and there, and maybe, just maybe, in like 2 or 3 months I'll have finished everything. But we'll see. It's very optimistic.
Well, there's plenty of content on there, and I can only imagine what the sales are going to be coming that are going to happen in the next week as well, because we haven't even hit May the 4th yet. So that's usually when there's a lot of sales out there as well. So I'm sure there's going to be even more out there. So. All right, we are going to take a very quick video break to plug some more Utini merch, and then when we come back, like I said, this is an artist episode this week, and we're going to talk about a very distinguished, very known artist in the comics world. So we will talk about that artist when we come back. All right, we are back, and we are going to get into the main course of the show tonight, and that is an artist spotlight this week. As we've said before in previous episodes, we a lot of people know the comic writers, but there's more than just writers who get into comics, and the artists are equally, if not in some instances, even more important than some of the writers. And so we at the Cosmic Force and Utini as a whole, we want to make sure we spotlight those creative people as well. And tonight we're going to have a spotlight on Phil Noto. We've got an image of him up on the screen right now. He is an artist for a number of Star Wars series, notably Poe Dameron, that was written by Charles Soule. He was the artist for books 1 through 6 and books 8 through 13. He was also at the same time what was the artist for the miniseries Chewbacca that came out, I believe that was about 2016.
2015 towards the end.
2015, yeah. That was written by Jerry Dugan. That was a 5-issue miniseries. They ran a series. They ran Chewbacca, Lando, Caleb's probably favorite, right?
Oh, absolutely. Lando. I feel like they had like a Han Solo there too.
There was Han Solo.
Yep.
There's Princess Leia. Yeah.
So they had a number of little 4-issue, 5-issue miniseries, and Chewbacca had his own spotlight, and Noto was the artist on that, and he was also an artist that was in the mainline comic for 2015. Those were written by Greg Pak. He was the artist for issues 68 through 75. But the main reason that we wanted to feature him tonight is he was also responsible for some concept artwork for the High Republic, in addition to working on some variant covers as well, notably Kanan #1, Darth Vader #4 from 2015, Star Wars #4 from 2015, Princess Leia #3, Vader Down #1, the Marvel adaptation of The Force Awakens, and an alternate cover for Shattered Empire #1. So he's very, very well known in the Star Wars community, and Jacob's got some of those covers up there right now, and I want to get y'all's thoughts. I want to go to Emma first. Emma, what are when you hear Phil Noto as an artist, what's something that comes to mind when it comes to his artwork?
Yeah, so immediately when I think of Phil Noto's art, it's just his sort of instantly recognizable style, and I can't really put my finger on exactly what makes it unique, but I can always tell when Phil Noto drew something, and I literally can't do that with any other artist, and I have no idea why, but that to me is really special, especially because we think more in terms of like the writing and how that's more memorable than the art. But in this case, for me, Phil Noto's very memorable. I think my first experience with his art was Shattered Empire, the cover, when I saw the cover, and the cover instantly drew me into that comic. And his art just has such a great way of capturing your interest, and I think that that's what he does best.
Absolutely, yeah. I think my first experience was with Chewbacca, and aren't as great. I think if I were to like try to sum it up in one word of how he can describe it, this might be a little off. It seems like his art is kind of soft. Like there's some very light colors into that, and it's not like it's like soft and like it's melding together or quite like watercolors like we saw in Dark Empire. It is just like a kind of wash he does over it, so it seems like it's not as harsh or in your face there. There's some great line work, some great bold outlines, but when you actually get into it, like Chewbacca looks fuzzy, he looks warm.
That's hard to do in an image. Be Nasty in the chat, in addition to calling him the legend, says the way that he does faces sticks out to him. Mike also says that he was going to say that his imagery is soft as well. Jacob, what are your thoughts on Noto?
I think so. One thing I think he does exceptionally well is, which it's something you don't really think of in comics for the artist, is his world building. Something that stuck out to me is, I mean, obviously he's done a lot for the High Republic, and that's just another example of that. But one thing that really stuck out with me when I was reviewing art for this was his Poe Dameron art, and specifically how he handled the First Order. because as large as like the First Order is in like the military might of it, we don't see a diversity of its like military and like its ships and everything like that in the movies. Like it's like you see the TIE fighter, you see like 2 Star Destroyers, and that's about it. Like you don't, and well then there's like the walkers on Crate, but he adds a lot of different ships to really flesh out the look of the First Order Navy in Poe Dameron. Like we got like there's like a floating like landing pad, kind of similar to like a helicarrier in Marvel. There's a few different Star Wars Destroyer variants. So I think he kind of fleshes out that broad, diverse military strength that kind of is more reminiscent of the Empire, and I really like that.
Exactly. Like his technology has very details into it that, you can tell he was thinking about how it actually operates. And, there's a lot of, great detail. Kind of, I said, like his character seems soft, but, that doesn't seem to apply to his machines and his spaceships. So yeah, there's a lot of like really fun work he did with that.
He also drew the Carrion Spike, which is like the coolest ship in Star Wars as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. Yeah, it's a cool ship.
Tarkin has good tastes.
He does have good taste. Do it real quickly. I know we like briefly mentioned the covers. Do we all want to kind of go around and say like if we have a favorite cover out of this bunch that he had done? So like there's the variant covers for like all the different series in 2015 he did at the top, and then we got the Force Awakens variant, the Vader Down variant, this Shattered Empire A cover, and then I just picked a cool cover from Poe Dameron, so it was an even number. But does anyone have a favorite out of the bunch?
I do, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Caleb.
No, if you insist.
Okay.
Vader Down, 100%. Just like the way he flips, the classic original Star Wars trilogy poster with, now Darth Vader and Aphra in the front ground, matching the posings. Like, like he's obviously aping something else, but that's great. Like the way it kind of shapes and faces up. I just love the creativity of that one. He's even got the font down with Vader Down turning into like the Star Wars font.
For me, it has to be the Force Awakens one. I love how he takes inspiration from the movie poster, but doesn't copy the movie poster. And again, like I think it was B. Nasty said in the chat, like the faces are on point here. And the colors are really nice. I don't know, there's something about it that really draws my eye.
I'll have to say something that Emma had mentioned earlier, and that's the Shattered Empire cover, because that I bought those issues because of this cover, because this came out, this was Journey to the Force Awakens, so this was 2016-ish. Yeah, so I was brand new to comics. Didn't really know about the branching story, branching titles and how interconnected yet independent they were. And this was outside of Star Wars mainline. This was the first kind of detour that I took, and it's all because of that cover right there. Just because it's, in addition to soft, it's also it's a very warm and inviting look, and it has all of our favorite classic characters on it, and I wanted to learn more about what the story was going to be based off the cover, and it's a very telling and very interesting thing to do, to be able to sell at least me on a story just based off the cover.
Yeah, I definitely gotta concur with you there. Just like the soft warmth of that cover, like it really like hits that nostalgia of me being a kid watching Return of the Jedi. Freaking Yub Nub is blasting in the background. Like there's like you can't beat that. Well, except for the cover, I gotta echo Caleb. That Vader Down cover is sick. Like not only, you got just that classic homage, and then I don't think you mentioned there's 000 and BT as R2 and C3PO in the background. I loved it so much that I went and bought it on eBay like a day after basically the day I found this existed during my research. So that'll be here on Saturday. I spent too much money on Star Wars, but that's okay. That's, who doesn't?
Okay.
Who
we
here among
enable
us
it.
has not spent too much money on Star Wars every now and again.
I think all of us have both been enablers and been enabled, especially in the comics chat. I will not name names, but you all know who you are. In the comics Discord. I wasn't going to say names, but you all know who you are, who are the enablers in that channel. But yeah, so we kind of we kind of chose a couple of different topics tonight that we're kind of gonna talk about in the sense of really describing his Noto's art style. And the first topic that we have down here is his example of inks, and we use Poe Dameron number 8 as an example of that. And we were talking about this kind of in the pre-show. So and Jacob had a really amazing description of kind of what it is that he's talking about here. So I'm going to let Jacob kind of run this little segment here.
Yeah, so I really wanted to pick this page out because I think inking, especially for newer comic book readers, it's not as intuitive as like, oh, I draw the pencils, I do the colors, I write the letters. Like, inking can be a little vague in what that actually is. So this is a really great example. As you can see the heavy outlines along Poe with his eyes and his arms and his shirt. But then with Timon and with Jessica, it's much more soft look, and a lot of that has to do with like the more like muted, like pastel-y color palette. But then also you have the softer inks don't really make it pop as much. So this panel is like that shifting perspective, and he enhances that shift by using different art styles. But yeah, I think this is a really, for those who are newer to comic book art, I think this is a really easy way to see what inking does to a panel.
Exactly.
I honestly don't think I noticed that until you pointed it out. How Snap and is that Jessica down there? How different they look to Poe based on the inks. That's very interesting.
Yeah, like those are supposed to be, I think, flashbacks. So, anytime you do a flashback, it makes sense to have like a softer color palette. Like it seems to be like a movie cast shorthand that we're doing it. So yeah, there's just some really great, work in there. There's also, fun details like background characters and like, things on the floor, BB-8 offering them a towel. These little things make it a lot more interesting.
And it's really interesting to know, to have the talent to paint more on the screen, on the image, than what is going on. I mean, that bottom panel there where Poe is sitting there, you have the feeling that of what Poe is going through, but utilizing everything around you, utilizing BB-8 being the trusty companion, and really just telling more elements of the story. And that's why it's so important to really appreciate the artwork, because it adds so much more gravity to what the story is telling by having those little sorts of details there, and even from the coloring to adding all the details around it to making sure because I've seen some work, and I think Bounty Hunters is probably the best example of, I don't think there's a lot of effort. I shouldn't say effort. I don't want to say that. The focus of the art in Bounty Hunters is really on the main points of the story. There's a lot of very anime style backgrounds in that book because the action is right in front of you. But Noto here takes the time to really give you a full picture. And I think it's really, really interesting for his ability to do that.
Yeah, in the background here, I'm pretty sure this was on Dakar, if I'm remembering correctly. But you can pretty much tell that from the wall that Poe is framed up against. And I think that's kind of rare in comics, that you could gather the location based on just a tiny snippet of background, and that's really great to see.
So in addition to this, another thing that he does very well is really the ability to capture motion. We've got a couple of different examples here, but we're going to start with Chewie number 1, and I'm going to let Jacob, you chose these panels, so I'm going to let you kind of describe what we're seeing here.
Yeah, so this is Chewie kind of like basically runs in with a small kid and helps him out through some tough times. It's a classic Star Wars story, but she's a bit of a scoundrel in her own right, and she's just running away from some local mob enforcers and hopping on a speeder bike. But what really sells the motion isn't the fact that she's in a running pose, but the fact that the background is changing and blurring and the focus is shifting throughout the panel, and then it culminates into her hopping on the speeder bike, and then obviously our mind fills in the rest. So I think this was a pretty cool example of showing that in a way. Emma actually collected a ton of examples of motion in his comics, especially in the Star Wars line. But yeah, I really like this one to highlight that.
Gonk.
Yeah, for sure. You can feel the speeder bike moving towards you, and I love when that happens.
Caleb, what were you going to say?
Gonk.
Gonk. Insightful. Thank you.
Exactly. The best sort of droid out there. But yeah, no, the motion blurring is not overdone. Like, it could easily be a really bad visual effect, but he uses it very well here, so you can kind of exactly what's going on. It's not confusing. So, and like the way your eyes move about the page, like I kind of like on that the second to last panel there where she's reaching down and turning on the thing. It's like this, we keep the same angle with that to the speeder bike, so we can we feel the continuation of that motion.
Yeah, we've got a couple of other examples of motion as well. I believe this is well, it has Chewie in it, but I believe, according to the show notes, this is Star Wars issue 69.
It is. That is correct. Yeah, I found this one, and honestly, it I mean, like I said with the speeder bike, it feels like it's moving towards you. It feels like Chewie's running straight at you, and you kind of want to move away. Like, just the way that he uses lines to sort of capture like wind, sort of pushing back wind resistance on Chewie and 3PO really stood out to me.
Yeah,
we got
even another one from Star Wars 71. The motion of the lightsaber here I found to be great. With the blurring of the lightsaber, you don't need to see the entire like swoosh of the lightsaber to know that it happened, which I think is great, because you don't need words to say that he cut him in half. You don't need the visual of the droid that is cut in half to say that he cut something in half. You can tell it just from the blurring of the lightsaber.
Yeah, I've had, I mean, there have been a couple times in Vader where I have to really study, especially when he's using his lightsaber in smaller panels, where I really have to study the image and understand where his hand is, what is going on. Because I mean, also because Star Wars is still some family friendly. Like, there's not a lot of traditional violence. I was trying to figure out how the best way to say that. There's not a lot of blood and gore. I mean, we all know that lightsabers instantly cauterize wounds, and there's a reason for that, and that's because there's no blood. And it's very, like, in this panel here with Luke, like, it's very obvious what is going on. It's very, you can tell where what he's slicing, where he's hitting it, which way he's going, and it's a really interesting way to look at that panel.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like part of it is it's Luke in post A New Hope, so he's not as skilled. He's not doing crazy like prequel flips or anything like that. But yeah, there's some Star Wars comics where you have panel where it's like point A of lightsaber strike, and then the next panel is like point E of lightsaber strike, and you can tell that they did a ton of stuff in between. But you're gonna have to do some mental backflips to try and connect all those dots. And here it's very simple. He swung and he chopped the droid in half, but it looks great. So
absolutely,
right,
we've got Star Wars 71 again. Yep, Star Wars 71 once again. A lot of good motion with the lines again, similar to the Chewbacca and C-3PO image. This character, his name is Dar Champion, which is like quite the Star Wars name. And
that's a legend's name right there.
Oh yeah, right there. Yeah, and you could just you feel like Leia's punching towards you because of Noto's use of lines, and I thought this was another great example of his use of motion.
Like, you can also see a little blurring there on that top panel right at her middle knuckle there, so it's like we're seeing some culmination of the the kind of shout lines, the blurring there, the onomatopoeia of the whoosh and the crack. That always adds a lot more.
And I always appreciate it when they make the panel a little bit more three-dimensional. You see the sleeve, her left sleeve is coming outside of the panel, right. Her fist and the fingers of Champion are coming out. I always love it when they do that, and then to switch the position with the grab underneath of that, where you now have the two standing there, not in a panel, It's not in a
Right.
defined panel. Those are just subtle art choices that really show the level of detail and really insight that these artists have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Noto does that a lot with sort of moving characters outside of the panel. Like I know a lot, he does this a lot in the Poe Dameron series where he'll put like a little circle and then like when there's a starfighter battle going on, he'll put like a little circle with the pilot's face in it so you can kind of see their face when they're talking, even though we only see their starships. And it's things like that that he does characterization very well in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Eric in the chat says Leia punching folks in the face is always the best. Yes, we have
It's
to.
true.
Any time that Leia has hero moments like this, it really is awesome, and to have it accented by Noto's art style is great. What are we looking at here? This is Star Wars 74.
That's correct.
And
Yes.
what are we looking at here in the top panel?
Yeah, so there's I don't remember what like planet or moon this is called, but it's Chewbacca and C-3PO's sort of side adventure, you could say, and the planet or moon is sort of tearing itself apart almost. And here in this top panel, I mean, you almost feel like you're vibrating as well. The motion blur is really there. With the rumble, the type of words in the bottom, just another great use of motion.
Mm-hmm. Got some good panel layout there as well with Han's head poking out the top. I kind of like how it's like set up so Han's kind of right in the middle and Luke's a little off center. It almost looks like you can tell that they're looking at each other, even though they're talking to each other. So you can tell the relation there just with those two panels, even though they're in completely different spaces.
Yeah,
good point.
I know this isn't why we're talking about this panel, but I really like his interpretation of Luke here. Just I think Luke's face, we were talking about this I think in Slack or something, but Luke's face can be hard to nail at times.
Yeah.
And so many Star Wars, with the exception of like Cam Kennedy, most people are going for a realistic interpretation of
a Mark Hamill-ish look.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this it has a little bit of stylization to it, but I think it captures his essence more than it really tries to nail the exact look of Mark Hamill. And I think I prefer that better. I'd rather you add a little stylistic flair to it than shoot for Mark and then fall short.
Yeah, I agree. I think Luke has been in so many comics by now, and out of all of the comics with Luke that I've read, I have to say that Noto's version of Luke is by far my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So then another thing that is notable for Noto, I absolutely planned that. That's a pun. That's an Eric pun right there. Is his ability to change style within a particular run, and we really see that in Chewie. This is from Chewie number 2. It's amazing to you can see the resemblance here from some of his other artwork, but at the same time, it's not, and I don't say this as negative. It's not nearly as crisp as some of those Leia photos were. Jacob, what were your thoughts on this panel here?
Yeah, so this is another like flashback panel. So it's similar to that Poe inking example we used earlier. That it's softer inks, generally more muted color palette, and the next one is more of a like a whole issue art style change. This is more of a single panel within an issue art style change for this flashback. So we're seeing the softer edges. We're seeing kind of the colors are both muted and they also bleed a little bit more. They're less defined edges. So it's showing Chewie's time on Kashyyyk and how we all know by now that after the Republic fell, it wasn't exactly the best place to live. And I think he does a really good job of capturing how Chewbacca, like 7'20" Chewbacca, 500-pound Chewbacca, can feel weak and vulnerable at times, and it's hard to show that visually when he towers over basically everyone. But here, I think he did a really great job of capturing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that and Chewbacca in these panels doesn't look very much anything like the Chewbacca in the Star Wars run, which shows his versatility in a good way, not a bad way.
Yeah, just minor note here. I also like how, since this is a flashback, like all the panel lines, like in between the individual panels, are like a fluorescent glow to them, so they're kind of bleeding out, and it's all soft around the edges. That's a really nice effect.
That's a good note. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, the next one we have is Chewbacca. What's that? Chewbacca 4. Like the whole comic issue is just slightly different. Like it was enough to where I'm like, did someone else do this? Because, like, you know, every once in a while you'll have like an artist come in to fill for an issue. Another unintentional pun. Fill for an issue. Phil Noto. Anyways, but no, the art style shifts quite a bit, I think, in issue 4 of the miniseries, which is weird for a 5-issue miniseries, but I like it. I still think it works well. It's just a different take on it, which is kind of interesting from you know, the same author going throughout it. But
yeah, it's a really interesting look. I mean, there's the same amount of detail, but yet it's a different kind of detail when it comes to Chewie's face, and especially the face of his little partner there. Unfortunately, I haven't read this issue yet, so I'm not sure who that is. But it's a really interesting concept of how we can still have detail but have it be completely different from anything that he has done in, you know, from previous issues or you know, from the book.
Yeah, I really agree. I think sometimes when artists sort of change up their style between issues, it's kind of like that was kind of like bad type of thing. But when Noto does it, it feels purposeful and it feels like it's done well. So I think that those are all points in the awesome column for Phil Noto.
I think one of the things we're moving on to the way that he uses lights and shadow and color. I think the way that his black is different than any other black that I've seen. I don't know if it's his thicker outlines. I'm speaking mainly about Poe and the covers that I've seen for Chewbacca. That I don't know what it is, but his blacks are different, and the way that this panel that we have on the screen right now looks it's awesome to see how different it can be with the background to the filling in of the characters. And then you throw in the motion at the end. I mean, there's so many different art styles going on in this one panel. All these 5 I think, Emma, you these are hamburger panels, right?
That's correct. I have termed it hamburger panels, and then when they're tall, they are hot dogs.
Jacob's shaking his head because he has no idea. That's what happens when you miss an episode, Jacob, is we come in and we start creating our own shorthand.
Oh, I know. I had to. Yeah, I was there, just in spirit.
That's right. Yeah, he was probably like, "Why are you guys running this show into the ground?" And I'm gone. Oh. But yeah, I love the shadows here. You know, honestly, different shadows, different colors in each of these panels. It's really lovely, and also I think that the shadows and the colors really represent her emotions too. Like they're very linked to her emotions, and I haven't read this comic in a while, so I don't even remember what this is in regards to, but I can tell her emotions just from the colors and the shadows here.
Chewbacca is currently doing Chewbacca things, so I think they're like in a mine, and he's like ripping droids apart.
But... yeah, and you don't even realize that you realize that there's story going on in the shadows, but you don't realize that it's happening in the shadows until you really get down to that 4th panel, and the art changes to where you're now focusing on the child. And then you realize, oh wait, that's not just a shadow going on in those first 3 panels. There's an actual story going on there, and the subtlety of that is really, really amazing in here. And and then it culminates with what looks like the loser in this battle being thrown over our protagonist's head here. But yeah, just the ability with minimal words to be able to tell a story in these 5 panels is really, really cool.
Yeah. So this next one is from Poe #1, and the little like briefing room panel at the bottom with Leia and Poe. I love how like that blue wash kind of takes over the whole room. It's not a new concept in Star Wars. We've seen it a lot, since like Empire Strikes Back. But I really like the look, and then you also have the blue hologram look of Lor San Tekka down in the corner. But
that entire bottom panel looks like all of Dark Empire.
That's true.
It's true. I mean, he's not wrong.
All right. Well, that is 4 straight episodes of Dark Empire being mentioned. Our streak continues. Tune in next week. See if we continue.
We have to be at least 10 episodes removed from Jared being on the show for the Dark Empire references to cease. Unfortunately, I don't know if we're gonna make it that long, but we'll see.
It'll happen. We'll make it happen. But with regards to this panel here, I imagine, I'm no artist. I'm not good at art, so I have no idea what it's like to be this good at art. But I can imagine that it's probably very difficult to pull this off, because if I was looking at this panel and I had no idea what Poe Dameron looked like, I had no idea what Princess Leia looked like, I'd still be able to say, okay, Poe is wearing a brown jacket and Leia is wearing like a sort of a darkish color vest, yet it's still like coated in this sort of bluish aqua light. And so I imagine that's pretty hard to do. And so I appreciate how the characters still come through despite being bathed in this light.
We've got a couple more examples here. Poe, moving on here, we have Poe #6. And this was what was very interesting. And again, we've got just subtle differences here. We go from the good guys, basically, in that last panel where they're bathed in a bluish, and a blue aquamarine color. And now you've got the First Order here. And in addition to the battle going on at top, and you can kind of assume that the red background is in a tribute to the explosion that you see. I think there's also something to say here about the fact that no, these are also the bad guys, and so we're gonna give them that classic red background there. And again, it's not anything that you notice. Yes, as Jacob waves his hands for his red background, he's the bad guy of the show. It's not something that you realize as you're reading this, but it's when you go back, when you take the time like this to really go back and really identify and really appreciate the panels, which is why I always read books twice, that those little details really, really pop out.
Yeah, what I really loved about this one for me is, again, Carrie and Spike. I had to get it in the show somehow. I love the ship. But it gives me like with the history of that ship being a cloaking ship, a very stealthy ship, with them in that red glow of light, it gives me like strong like Hunt for Red October vibes. Like they're on that submarine trying to escape, and I really like that. I don't know if it's intentional, but I love that kind of connection there.
It's interesting to me how Agent Terex there on the bottom, it looks like he's looking down at a screen, like what would happen if you're in a dark room and you're looking down at your phone or something like that. But it's kind of a reddish light. And I just find that interesting because he is the bad guy, like Tyler said. So the light is red. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you're sitting around a campfire telling scary stories and you put the flashlight up to your face to make yourself look scary. That's what this reminds me of. So it's interesting use of lighting. And then we have Star Wars 68. And I found this one interesting because of the shadows from the hologram on General Reich. And similar to the aqua light, this is sort of an orangey light. And the room isn't dark here, which makes this unique. Yet you can still see the sort of hologram sort of explosion type of thing with the shadows on his face. And I thought it was really well done because the shadows don't overtake the room. They just sort of appear on objects or people that are closer to the hologram.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You can't tell how it's like reflected against the general there. You can kind of see like the patches across his upper chest there.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. The little detail of seeing that little bit of you can clearly tell that it's being reflected on his vest, but even though you can't really tell what it actually is. So, and then this is also from Star Wars issue number 70. Yeah, and this actually demonstrates two different things. It demonstrates the shadow and the color, but it also demonstrates our one of the last sections that we were going to talk about is his non-traditional panel layout.
Yeah, I really love that. Like, it really wasn't a thing much until the sequels, but really how they embraced the bathing of the light coming off the lightsabers. It didn't really reflect out into the room as much until the more recent movies, but I think it adds a cool dramatic effect when used. I wouldn't say sparingly, but it has to be used in the right moments. But I really like how that's coming off on Luke's face there.
Yeah, the way that it's sort of shining a little bit on his sort of poncho thing there, and a little bit on his on the right side of his face, and then the way that his head sort of sticks up into the other two panels. I think that this page overall was really well done.
Yeah,
and the 3D element of his lightsaber being kind of in between those two more traditional panels. Yeah, there's a whole lot going on here. Caleb,
exactly.
What were you going to say?
There's about the lightsaber there. Yeah, it looks like you can see the path from the person throwing it to his hand to it and catching and igniting it. It's like you can map the arc there.
Yeah, this page is just full of really good stuff.
And then I'm really glad that this panel was included here, because in addition, you can't fully appreciate this panel because the words are not on here, but the words are not even describing this scene. There is a conversation going on between Poe and Emma. What was it? Traxxas?
Terex.
Terex.
T-Rex.
There is
yes.
There is the two of them are basically grandstanding to each other. That you're not looking at the full picture. No, you're not looking at the big picture. And it's a completely different scene, but yet we are seeing a completely different dogfight going on. And I was really glad this was chosen, because it's an amazing way to really tell two different stories at the exact same time and be able to understand what's going on in both.
And I like how the sections that focus on Poe's ship are sort of bathed in like a blue sort of tone, and the ones focusing on Terex's ship is bathed in a red sort of tone. I really like that contrast, and just the way that they're all aligned in a circle, and then showing off Poe's ship in the showcase with the explosions. I don't know, it's just all really gorgeous, to be honest.
I think Poe Dameron, the series, does starfighter battles very well. Like it's the heroes, so more often than not they're gonna come out, at least if not ahead, they're gonna come out okay. But I felt like there were real stakes just about every time they went into battle in that series, and I think that's hard to do. We obviously have Alexander Freed killing it over in the novels with starfighter battles, but I think for comics, I think Poe Dameron does it very well.
Totally agree.
Absolutely.
I think we have one more example here of non-traditional layouts, and that's just from Star Wars number 70. This made me laugh a lot when I saw it, just with the tipped panel with Chewie and C-3PO showing that they're in the Falcon, but they're sideways, and you can tell that C-3PO is having like the worst time of his life. And I like how it's on the same angle with the Falcon. It was just a really unique way to do it.
You can hear this panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also love that it's the the little inset panel with the two of them. It's basically the camera shot we see in every single time we're in the cockpit. So it has that cinematic feel to it. Yeah, like you said, you can hear Chewie and C-3PO are yelling at each other. The alarms are going off in the background. The hyperdrive is somehow mysteriously not working, even though they're not even trying to jump right now. Like, yeah, I love it.
Angle the deflector shields to the rear. Rev that power.
Angle the deflector shields, angle the panel. It's all good.
So we wanted to finish off with a couple of kind of cool moments that Noto has kind of accentuated through his artwork here. This first one is Chewie number 1. And Emma, did you choose this panel?
I got this one. This one, it's like we're starting off with like probably objectively the least cool moment, but one thing I just wanted to make sure we threw out there is the ability that he had to carry a story that didn't have a speaking protagonist. Like Chewbacca is about Chewbacca, and Chewbacca, we don't there's not even subtitles or a little translate from Shriwook kind of inset boxes. It's just him going arg for 5 issues. So I think the ability to carry a non-verbal protagonist falls a lot on the artist, even though the author will have notes in their script and everything for him to go off of. It really comes down to the ability of the artist to sell the story of Chewbacca, and I really wanted to highlight this one before we get into some really cool epic panels like this.
Oh wow, that's beautiful. I always love when the Falcon has its lights on for some reason. I just think it's really cool because we don't see it very often. I mean, we saw it in The Force Awakens. I don't even know if we saw it in any other movie. And I didn't even know it had sort of underbelly lights until I saw this panel. So it's just really cool.
And as futuristic as Star Wars is, this is also a very realistic panel. You've got we've seen this dozens of times in movies where there's a helicopter or there's a plane taking off and they're backlit and they're having the little hero moment with somebody else. I mean, there's so much, you can hear this panel, what's going on without any, with minimal amount of words.
Absolutely. Ooh, yeah. This is, I think, what Jacob was talking about these fun first order, devices and units here. This is obviously a mobile battleship and command center, and it just looks intimidating, looks militaristic, and looks cool.
Yeah. This was from Poe Dameron number 1, and I remember this sticking out to me the first time I read this series as just being something I wouldn't imagine the Empire doing, but something that the First Order would do because they're so technologically focused, and the fact that they would bring sort of a mobile base is a really unique and cool idea to me.
Yeah, I think it speaks to their place in the galaxy, where the Empire, it's we just rule everything, but the First Order, at least at this point, is trying to kind of find their way in the galaxy, claw as much power as they can, so that they don't have. I can't just call up my Moff on this planet. I got to send out a little mobile detachment to try and do my work for me.
And again, the use of his blacks always stand out to me. You see the ship flying because it's obviously in the middle of the panel, but your eyes are drawn down to that's a tunnel that goes. Poe is down in that tunnel, and that's the only way in and out of that. So he's obviously in trouble because you see that this floating battleship is parked right above the entrance, and it's an amazing ability to really demonstrate depth of field as well, even though there's 3D elements in this panel, even though it's a flat image.
Yeah, this next one I pulled out just because I was thinking how often do you see a giant kaiju fight in Star Wars? And as it turns out, more often than I would expect. Especially no spoilers, just if you know, you know. So this was from Poe Dameron number 3. Surprise, surprise, that tunnel he was in had a giant Mothman. Don't call it Mothra, but it's there. It is, and then another one shows up and it fires a laser through the first one's chest. It's a wild time.
this was weird. It was weird.
It's very comic
and a little
booky.
creepy, to be honest.
Yeah. And then they all live happily ever after, and I'm not even kidding. All right, next one. I love this. Is Poe Dameron number 8, and you'll see this look a lot later down the road. But first off, I mean, what Star Wars fan here wouldn't like to have this as like their office with all the helmets in the wall? Like everyone always dreams of that. But I really like Tarek's had some like crazy days in his youth, and part of it was him dressing up as a stormtrooper samurai, and I really like that they they pay tribute to George Lucas's Eastern inspirations in Star Wars, with Darth Vader's, Darth Vader has like the samurai kind of looking helmet. There's so many influences that like Kurosawa and Eastern filmmaking had on Star Wars that we get a little bit of it coming in here with Poe Dameron.
Yeah, there's so many Easter eggs in this image. I love it. Like, I see a Death Trooper helmet, an AT-AT driver's helmet, a Shore Trooper helmet, and I think there's an E11 blaster down there. There's just a lot of cool stuff in the shot.
There's some sort of Death Star blueprint there in the top left corner as well.
I didn't notice
It looks like
that.
the one like from where they show like the thermal exhaust port, because you can kind of see on like the first one just the Death Star, but the one below it you see like the line to the center. So I don't know if that's the one that they'd shown from how to blow it up, but yeah, definitely a cool little moment here.
It's nice to see Stormtrooper armor get its own personalized touch with the like red paint job.
Yeah.
That's also we know red ones go faster.
That's true. Next one is, we talked about this earlier, but he just does ships really well. Unfortunately, this is a landscape panel, so I kind of squashed it with our current setup. But we got all these different ships coming after Poe, as and the carrying spike as well. So yeah, I really like this.
Yeah, I love this shot. I love Poe's black and orange X-wing. It'll never not be cool.
That's true. The next we had, this one was the one that Emma got for us. I mean, just take it away. This looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean, how gorgeous is this? You got the Star Destroyer up top. It really shows the scale of it. I like how it's not as prominent as the Falcon because it's way off in the distance. And then, you got the Falcon with its blue engine lights and the nice lava sort of area down on the planet. And I don't know, this shot it really took my breath away.
Yeah, like I like how like the whole thing is just barely in focus. You can tell this is gonna be huge. Like the nice like pure line of like shadow versus in the light there. Just like it makes it really pop and like, oh, we're in deep trouble now. Because we've seen this scene before, like a fighter or freighter pulling off of a planet, and suddenly the Star Destroyer comes. But this one, it feels more intimidating.
It does. I said out loud, I have a bad feeling about this.
Yeah,
this is. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, I love the scale. Sometimes it's easy to forget how big a Star Destroyer is.
Right.
One thing this really reminds me of, I know Mike might get this. I don't know if anyone else will understand, but Vader Immortal Episode 1, literally like it's the VR game. Like the intro scene is you like flying into a planet, and then and you have like the viewport of your ship goes over your head, and a Star Destroyer starts flying over to the top of you, and like that was the first game I played in VR, and it's crazy to just look up and see this like enormous ship flying over and taking over your entire field of view. Like that is what this really strikes me with, that scale of how big these ships are and how intimidating it would be.
Well, and it all goes back to the very first ever images we have of Star Wars. I mean, having that Star Destroyer continue to crawl across the screen and continue and just the menacing intimidation right from the first 30 seconds of the franchise. I mean, it's amazing how simple of a ship a Star Destroyer is, but how amazingly emotional it can be.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much a flying Dorito, but it's still it's still really cool. And then this panel is from Star Wars 72, and at first glance, this isn't a super glamorous page, But I really loved how he drew the sand in Luke's hand, and I think in Warba's hand. I think that's her name. I love the way that you could kind of see like the singular like granules of sand, and it just seemed like kind of a tough thing to do, but he pulled it off well, I think.
It seems like it's getting everywhere though.
I was waiting for someone. I was like, are we going to stoop that low? Like, are we?
I fell right into that one. Yeah.
I was like, as I was like you sent me the message like, hey, I like this one with the sand. I'm like, oh no, Emma, what have you done?
Yeah, walked right into that one. And then here is Star Wars 75, and we've got a hero shot with Luke and Dar Champion and Leia and Han and Chewie all shooting simultaneously at Darth Vader. And my question is, when will we learn to stop shooting blasters at Darth Vader?
The funny thing is, like 20 issues ago is the answer. Like way back when they're like, all right, we have Vader strategies. Flamethrowers work really well. Shooting at him does nothing. And here we are. What have we learned? Apparently still nothing.
It still makes for a beautiful shot, though. So
yeah, do we really think that Han is listening in those sessions? I mean, come on.
No. No, but yeah, this art was really gorgeous. And then Star Wars 75 again. I just had to say, like, let's just notice who has the high ground here. Darth Vader has the high ground here. And I found that interesting choice, Phil Noto.
Maybe if Obi-Wan stayed around to give Luke one more lesson, he would have taught him the ways of the high ground. But here we are. We could have skipped all the other movies. He just, stand up a little higher and it was over. But
I was about to say, well, the Death Star was just like a pure, plain, hallways the entire way through.
Ground.
So that's why. So, there's no way to get high ground there.
Yeah.
That's true. It was a safe area for him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Darth Vader built that entire thing just so he would never lose a fight again.
Oh my God. All right. So, yeah, some great moments in all the different comics he's illustrated on. But, yeah, one thing we got to touch on before we leave is his work on the High Republic, which, I mean, come on. Like,
oh, so beautiful.
I feel like I've been sold on this story initiative on, like, the aesthetic alone. I mean, the stories are great, don't get me wrong, but, like, that golden era is really what got me, like, wrapped up in it. And Phil Noto, Ian McCaig, and Grant Griffin actually have done a lot of work in the concept art phases of the High Republic. And
yeah, like Noto seems to be a perfect sort of fit of this because, as we've established, it's
I was just thinking the same thing.
And like warm colors and like how expressive his faces are, and like you can tell just by looking at this is prime Jedi. These people are, confident and in their spot. So no, like Noto worked really well on this whole initiative. So we're very happy about this. 100.
Yeah, I think these first Noto images were some of the very first images that we had seen for anything High Republic, and I think that these pictures are what really sold people. And like you guys were mentioning, I mean, who better than Phil Noto to draw some really intriguing characters that makes us want to dive into all of these stories.
I'd love to know to be in those pitch meetings and say and to understand. Do we need to get Phil Noto because that's the attitude and that's the feeling that we're going for, or was it a pitch to say, hey, we want you to design something and he designed, because it works so perfectly and they have this sense of just greatness about them that is just different than what we've seen before.
Yeah, I would definitely. I think if you haven't watched it yet, it's on Disney Plus. I think it's called like Disney Insider. There was an episode a couple of months ago that part of the episode was talking about the High Republic process, and like it visited the writers going to Skywalker Ranch for the first time and doing like their brainstorming sessions, and did the unveiling event where they revealed finally what Project Luminous was and talked about a lot of the art. I think if you're a diehard High Republic fan, I definitely watch that. I mean, you all have Disney Plus anyways, between Clone Wars and Falcon Winter Soldier, Bad Batch.
Is that next week, right?
Bad Batch?
Yeah, next week.
Yeah,
next week.
On the 4th is when it starts, and then another episode Friday, I believe. But definitely check that out. I mean, come on. Like, this is gorgeous.
Oh, so good.
I
So
love
yeah,
that.
I still need to know about that dark saber.
Yeah, well, it's like I know
Alright.
because Cavan actually on his blog did a breakdown of this image a while back, saying that like not all of these this is concept art, that's not the final
Right.
thing. Not all of these Jedi became real Jedi. Like you obviously see Loden there, you see Ty, or at least what became Ty York. Apparently that wasn't exactly who she was at the beginning. You see the bald pale Jedi, which gets split into Sarah and Tarrant. Yeah, you see Skier. Like
I don't know.
mean,
There seem to be a lot
Orla
of
Jareni, I think.
yeah,
there seems to be a lot of things that have come to pass so far.
Is that a Loth Wolf?
Yes. Just well, I mean, at least that's what we think. I mean, I guess there's that Jedi outpost post on Lothal there. I mean, it's probably High Republic Jedi there at some point. So, but
Ooh, I'd love to see that.
I just imagine Dave Filoni with his cowboy hat on, like peeking into like the room at Skywalker Ranch, like, "Hey guys, can you throw a wolf in there? Would that be too much to ask for?
Or at least a Loth cat?"
Yeah.
That'd be something he would do.
Yeah. So.
Well, I think we've clearly demonstrated tonight that Phil Noto is one of a number of special artists in the Star Wars expanded universe, and we will do our best to make sure that we feature them and we talk about them. If you want to see some of Phil Noto's other work outside of Star Wars, he's also worked on Cable 2020, which is what Caleb had said that he was reading, in addition to Black Widow Volume 5. And then he also assisted on Civil War II, The Oath. He's a great artist. Go support him. Go support all of the amazing artists in the Star Wars universe. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of The Cosmic Force. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, and tune in every Wednesday here at 8 o'clock on YouTube to hear us live. Like I said, I know that we are finally starting to get onto the podcast networks. I know that the Apple Podcast takes a little bit of extra time, but we are there, and we so keep looking for it. And once you are able to find us, leave us a review so that it makes it easier for other comic fans and Star Wars fans to be able to find it. Also, make sure to visit utini.com for reviews, articles, and news for the entire expanded universe. We encourage you to join our Discord by going to utini.com/Discord. If you want to help support the show, you can find us at patreon.com/utini and start receiving exclusive perks starting at just $5 a month. We want to give a special shout out to some of our Patreons. Cheryl Bell, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sander are on our Jedi High Council. Kyle Hickman, Elizabeth Cloutier, Jason Mitchell, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Eilerson are on our Alliance High Command. Thank you, as always, for your amazing support. Without your support, we wouldn't be able to continue to bring this amazing content to everybody. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You can tweet at the show at Cosmic Force Show or at the host individually. I'm at Ty Rags, Emma is at IrmaJade26, Caleb is at Caleb Lamanek, and Jacob is at Jacob Bosch. Thank you again to Emma, Caleb, and Jacob for hosting with me. Thank you to everybody in the chat for participating tonight. Make sure you submit those panels of the week. We want to make sure we hold Jacob to his promise of paying for somebody's next omnibus next week. Thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it, and we will see everybody next week. And as always, may the Force be with you.